Alright, so hello everybody again. This is the second video in the series on our presidents for President's Day. Very cool. We're doing the more modern presidents, probably the ones you've heard of more. And we're going to start off with everybody's favorite president, Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was president for one term from 1861 to 1865, and he was the president during the Civil War. And another sad fun fact was that he was assassinated at a play by a man named John Wilkes Booth. Real sad, real sad. Okay. Next up is Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson was president for one term from 1865 to 1869. And Andrew Johnson is known for buying Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million. Because Russia thought Alaska was a frozen wasteland, nobody wanted to go there, but still nobody wants to go there, but okay. Next up is Ulysses S. Grant. He was president for 3 terms from 1869 to 1877. Okay, and Ulysses S. Grant was a major general during the Civil War and helped stop the Ku Klux Klan in the South. Good for him. Good job, buddy. Okay. Next up is Rutherford B. Hayes. Rutherford B. Hayes was president from 1877 to 1881. And Rutherford B. Hayes was a cat lover and had Siamese cats delivered to the White House. That's pretty cool. Next up is James Garfield. James Garfield was president for only 1 year, 1881, and he was assassinated the first year he was president by a man who was mad at Garfield for not giving him a job in his cabinet. The entitlement to some people. Next up was Chester A. Arthur, and he was president from 1881 to 1885. And Chester A. Arthur was, the fun fact for him was he had the first White House yard sale where you could buy historical artifacts for almost nothing. Imagine you could buy Abraham Lincoln's pants, literally, and you could buy them for very cheap. And he sold these things so he could get new furniture for the White House. That's pretty cool. I want to go to a White House yard sale. Next up is Grover Cleveland. Grover Cleveland had 3 terms, 1885 to 1889, and 1893 to 1897. He must have been really loved. And Grover Cleveland was a teacher of the blind before he became president. Next up is William McKinley. William McKinley was president for 2 terms, 1897 to 1901, but then he was assassinated in 1901 because a man blamed him for the bad economy at the time. All right. I'm listening to somebody. No, I'm not. Okay. Next up is Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt was president from 1901 to 1909. Yeah. Actually, this is Teddy, but we're going to go with this. So this is Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt was known for making the national park system in the United States. That's pretty cool. You can go to a national park because that guy. I don't know who this is. Well, we'll find out. Next up is William Taft. William Taft was president from 1909 to 1913. I think that's this guy. Yeah, that's this guy. And William Taft, his fun fact was he was so fat, he was 350 pounds, he had to have a specially made huge tub installed in the White House that could fit him. Because no other tub would fit him, he was that fat. Next up is Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson was president from 1913 to 1921, 2 terms. Woodrow Wilson helped make the League of Nations after World War I, which eventually became the United Nations. Very cool. Next up is Warren G. Harding, who was only president for 2 years, 1921 to 1923. And Warren G. Harding was a newspaper reporter before he was president. Very cool. Next up is Calvin Coolidge. Calvin Coolidge was president for 2 terms, 1923 to 1929. Calvin Coolidge was a teacher of the deaf before he becoming president. Very nice. Okay, Herbert Hoover was only president for 1 term, 1929 to 1933. And Herbert Hoover was an orphan. Both his parents died of sickness, and he was sent to live with his family out west. And then he became so good, he became president. Next up is Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And he had 3 terms from 1933 to 1945. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt ended the Great Depression and helped win World War II. He was so popular, he was elected for 3 terms but died in office from polio. Good job. All right. Next up is Harry Truman. Harry Truman was president for 2 terms from 1945 to 1953. And Harry Truman was the president who dropped the atomic bomb on Japan, forcing the Japanese to surrender and end World War II. Next up is Dwight D. Eisenhower. Dwight D. Eisenhower was president from 1953 to 1961. Now, Eisenhower was known because he trapped all the squirrels in the White House and moved them off the White House lawn because they interrupted his golf. Next up is our favorite, John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy was president from 1961 to 1963, but sadly he was assassinated by a man named Lee Harvey Oswald at a motor parade in Dallas, Texas. This is Lyndon Johnson. Lyndon Johnson was president from 1963 to 1969, 2 terms. And Lyndon Johnson was a teacher and fought in World War II before becoming president. Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon was president for 2 terms from 1969 to 1974. But his presidency was ended early because he was caught spying on many different politicians in 1974. This was known as the Watergate scandal. Next up is Gerald R. Ford. Gerald R. Ford was president from 1974 to 1977. And Gerald Ford, let's find out his fun fact. Gerald Ford was a football player in college and was offered positions in the NFL, but he decided to become president anyway. So, if you're a football player, maybe you can become president one day. We'll see. Next up is Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was president from 1977 to 1981. Jimmy Carter owned a huge peanut farm before becoming president. Very cool. Next up is Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was president for 2 terms from 1981 to 1989. And Ronald Reagan was a famous actor before becoming president, and he also survived an assassination attempt. Wow. Next up is George H.W. Bush, Papa Bush. George H.W. Bush was president from 1989 to 1993, 1 term. And George H.W. Bush was in the Navy in World War II, and he played baseball with Babe Ruth once at Yale University. That's cool. I want to play baseball with Babe Ruth. Next up is Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was president from 1993 to 2001, 2 terms. And Bill Clinton was a Rhodes Scholar, which meant he got a full scholarship to Oxford University. That's pretty cool. Most people can't do that. So that's Bill Clinton. And this is Baby Bush, George W. Bush. And he was president from 2001 to 2009. I'm going to keep going. George W. Bush was the president.